What's going on, guys? K-Pine here and welcome back. And in this video, I'll be featuring some battles in the Ultra League Premier Cup. Walrein is still a very good pick in the Ultra League. We all know how strong Charizard is with the wing attack buff, and Talonflame is an incredible closer. When you combine those all together, you get a very solid team. Now, this team's meant to work in an ABB style where you safe swap into the Charizard against a fighting lead and try to bait out any water types like Swampert they could have in the back. While this team does get core broken by electric types, if you see it on the lead, Walrein can still put in decent work, plus their backline tends to be weak against our backline, and if the electric type's in the back, you can deal with it using proper energy management. And with that, let's get right into the battles. Alright, getting to the first battle, we lead Walrein into Obstagoon. Bad lead for us, we're going to swap right away into our Charizard, see what they counter it with, and it's a Nidoqueen. And this is, I think, only like the second Nidoqueen I've seen all season, so it's pretty neat to see one here in the Ultra League Premier Cup. We do get a shield with a Blast Burn on the CMP tied to this Poison Fang, so we're going to load up, throw our Blast Burn on the CMP tied to their Poison Fang again. But we get a turn of desync there after the charge move, and they reach the Poison Fang before we reach the Blast Burn, which shouldn't have happened. But that's okay, because we are going to get our Blast Burn off either way and get their final shield. And with the Poison Fang nerf, it is 6 Poison Jabs to each Poison Fang. Or so I thought, because I'm going to take this Poison Fang, throw my Icicle Spear on 5, but it ends up being a CMP tie. So it's actually, the counts to Poison Fang are actually 6, 6, 6, 5, not 6, 6, 6, 6. So just something for you guys to keep in mind right there. We're immediately going to swap into our Talonflame to clear this Poison Fang debuff, and we are met with a Gyarados. And now this is going to be close, but we are up a shield, so we can tank this Aqua Tail, and I'm going to load up to 100 energy before I throw this Brave Bird, because this way I maximize my energy while minimizing the amount of damage I would take, because the Dragon Breaths do more after you drop your defense with the Brave Bird. Now we leave with a Brave Bird against this Obstagoon, and this is going to be very, very close. If they're able to farm me down or get to the back-to-back moves in time, there's a very good chance they win this game, but we get to the Flame Charge just before they get to the back-to-back moves, and we are able to take that one. GG's to my opponent. Getting into the next battle, we lead Walrein into Alolan Ninetales. We're going to throw one Powder Snow here, check the fast move. If it's Charm, we will swap out into our Charizard. If it's Powder Snow, we will stay in. But in this case, my opponent swaps out right away into a Jellicent, and since Walrein is my best answer for the Jellicent, we will stay in and throw off these Earthquakes, since if your Walrein is good enough ranked, you will survive both Shadow Balls and get to both Earthquakes. As you'll see right here, we survive that, able to throw off our second Earthquake, which would bring the Jellicent very low. And now we're going to wing attack down with our Charizard, get an energy lead, see what they want to come back in with. And they come back in with the Alolan Ninetales, so they must be very weak to the Charizard in the back. So because of that, I'm going to bait with this Dragon Claw, expecting to get a shield, but my opponent calls the bait. And that is a very nice no shield by them. So they are going to land this Weather Ball, and I'm not in danger of being farmed down, so I can let this Weather Ball go through. And as they say, if once you fail the bait, you try and bait again. And this time we are successfully able to bait and get a shield, which is good for us. So now I'm going to load up and throw this Blast Burn on the CMP tie to their next Weather Ball, which will either take out the Alolan Ninetales or get their final shield. It does take it out, and now they have a Machamp in the back. And this is going to be a little tricky, because if they bait, they can win. Or if I shield the Rock Slide, I can win this match. So it all comes down to a bait call. I'm going to let this go. I'm going to call a Cross Chop, and it ends up just being the Cross Chop. And now we are in a very good position right here. So we get to throw off this Flame Charge, take out the Machamp, and take that game. GG's. Next battle, we lead Walrein into Walrein, the mirror match. I'm going to stay into this, And sometimes I'll swap out to try and catch an Earthquake on my Charizard the first go around. Sometimes I'll do it the second go around. Sometimes I'll just swap out right away. It all depends, because Walrein is often accompanied by a Swampert. So that way, by swapping out, you bait out the Swampert and you get to keep your Walrein, which is your Swampert counter. So right here, I swap out to try and catch your Earthquake, but my opponent is very, very patient. They're over farming. They get to hold on, and now they get to start spamming off these Icicle Spears, which isn't really good for me. But I do fortunately live 2. So I will be able to get to this Blast Burn in time. I go for a Blast Burn here because Dragon Claw will not be enough to KO, and I don't want them to reach another Icicle Spear. And they bring in their own Charizard. I'm not going to be able to reach a Blast Burn on my own, so I will go for a Dragon Claw. This will get some chip damage off on their Charizard. And now it's my turn for my Walrein to start spamming off these Icicle Spears from all the energy I saved up. First one lands on the Charizard. They're going to throw a move right before we get to our next Icicle Spear, but this is just a Claw. I can survive that, farm up, throw right before their next Claw to maximize the energy my Walrein has, and take out their Zard or get their first shield. I do end up getting their first shield, and this is perfectly fine for me because now this sets up my Talonflame for the sweep. 2 shields to 1 shield, they have a Trevenant in the back, and this game is over. Even if this Trevenant is successfully able to double bait me, the Charizard won't be able to take me out in time, and my opponent goes straight for the Shadow Ball, which is their win condition. So props to them for going straight for their win condition. But we are able to take that one. GG's. Next battle, Walrein into Shadow Charizard. Pretty neutral matchup since we are able to spam out these Icicle Spears, but they hit for heavy damage with the Blast Burn. And they're going to safe swap right into a Kingdra. And this is exactly where we want to see the Kingdra, because it has access to Octazooka and Outrage, so we want to keep it the Octazooka away from our back line. We're going to stand, we're going to call that they're going to throw an Octazooka just because an Outrage won't knock us out. But they do go for Outrage, so smart play by them. And we are able to get off this last second Icicle Spear, and now we're going to commit to the Wing Attack farm down since they aren't going to be able to reach another move, and they bring in a Milotic. And this is a little tough now because Milotic typically runs Dragon Tail, Surf, and Hyper Beam, or Dragon Tail, Surf, and Blizzard. But it's that Dragon Tail and Surf combination that our backline is afraid of. So we are making sure that we're going to throw these Dragon Claws on good timing to maximize our energy and minimize the amount of free turns we give our opponent, because it is going to be very crucial in this matchup. So we're spamming off another Dragon Claw here. Milotic's getting very low. They're not willing to give up their shields yet, of which will most likely get their first one right here. But no, they let it go, and they let their Milotic go down and save their shields for their Charizard. And this now all comes down to a bait on our part. If we're able to successfully bait this Flame Charge, I go another Incinerate that right there for good timing. I don't want to give them 2 turns of free energy when I can only give them 1. And same thing right here. My opponent is going to be throwing their next move. It is the Blast Burn. We are able to survive it. And I could have gone for the Brave Bird right there, but my opponent's going to shield this regardless. So we are able to get our final shield. And now my win condition is to be able to catch. So we go for the catch. And unfortunately, we're not able to get it. The end of the battle does get cut off, but my opponent is able to get to the back-to-back Dragon Claws and take that one, so GG's to them. Remember what I said in the beginning of the video about an electric type lead? Yeah, that doesn't apply to Magnezone, so essentially, we beg them to bait. Please go for the Mirror Shot. They go for the Wow Charge, so you know what? There's a nice button in the top left corner right there. We're going to press it, and we're going to head on out of there. GG's to my opponent. Next battle, Walrein into Shadow Machamp. Absolutely terrible lead for us. We're going to immediately swap into that Charizard. And notice here, I go for the Dragon Claw right away. If I go for the Blast Burn, they're going to reach that Rock Slide before we reach our Blast Burn and take a shield from us. And they're going to be able to get out of there in time before I'm able to throw the Blast Burn. I go for the Dragon Claw. I either force them to shield or get some chip damage off into the Shadow Machamp, which then puts the Shadow Machamp in Icicle Spear range. So that is very, very important. Now they meet our Charizard with their Walrein. They will shield that first Blast Burn. We can survive that Icicle Spear. We get to our next Blast Burn, throw it on the CMP tie to their next Icicle Spear, which is going to do some massive damage to the Walrein and not allow them to farm down our Charizard. So now I'm debating whether I bring in my Talonflame and go for hefty Incinerate down, or bring in my Walrein where I'd have to throw an EQ. So I decide to bring in my Talonflame instead, where I will eat a Icicle Spear right here. And my opponent instantly swaps into their Charizard. So I'm going to throw this Brave Bird and then dip on out of there into my Walrein. Because now we have the alignment that we want with our Walrein off of that Shadow Machamp and our Talonflame on it instead. My opponent's going to go for a Blast Burn. It's going to do some big damage, but we are able to hit back with this Icicle Spear. Get some nice chip. The next Icicle Spear will be enough to take out this Charizard, but they throw a move on the CMP tie. This has to be Blast Burn to take me out. A Dragon Claw won't quite do it. It is the Blast Burn. So now I can bring in my Talonflame, overload on energy, shield this move, throw this Flame Charge, take out the Charizard, and I am one more Incinerate off the next Flame Charge, which will be able to outpace the Shadow Machamp. They bring in there. I'm patient. I'm not going to throw my energy right away because their win condition is to catch, so I watch for that, and we're able to take that one. GG's. Next battle, Walrein into Muk. I want to say a little decent lead for us, but somewhat neutral because they can hit for super effective with the Thunder Punches while we have the Earthquakes. My opponent swaps into a Hitmontop, and this thing is going to take a shield from me because it does run Stone Edge. And the reason why I bring my Talonflame here instead of my Charizard, which has a better matchup, is because nobody safe swaps Hitmontop unless they have another fighter in the back with which they're trying to bait out the Charizard. And I go for the Flame Charges here instead of Brave Bird, so I can ramp up my attack against this Muk that comes in, and it won't be able to commit to a farm down against me. So they are going to throw a Thunder Punch. It is just not enough to take me out, so we are able to get off this Brave Bird right here. Guarantee a shield from my opponent. Now we're going to bring back in our Walrein, and there's the fighter in Scrafty, and we are just going to go straight Blast Burn here. Our lose condition is them calling a Dragon Claw. So we are just going to go straight Blast Burn, load up to basically 100 energy, throw off our first move. And it does get the shield from my opponent, who is then going to return fire with what is most likely another Foul Play, and it is. So now we're going to load up on energy again. I'm going to go for this Blast Burn right here. I'm one off the next Blast Burn, but I'm not sure if a Poison Jab from the Muk will take me out or not. So instead, I'm going to opt to go for this Dragon Claw for some guaranteed damage. We do survive, but that is perfectly fine because this Earthquake is going to take out the Muk regardless. GG's. Next battle, we lead Walrein into Chesnaught. Negative lead for us. We are able to hit back with these Icicle Spears, but they can hit like a truck against us with the Superpower and Frenzy Plant. So I load up to 5, swap out to try and catch a Superpower, but my opponent is patient, they wait, and now my Charizard is met with a Swampert. Good news for us, we are able to CMP tie with the Swampert to our Blast Burn, allowing them to have their farm minimized instead of over farming against our Charizard, which is perfect for us because now we can bring in our Walrein. And I go for Earthquake right here because an Earthquake plus a couple farms of Powder Snow will be able to take it out, as opposed to 2 Icicle Spears. This way I can maximize my energy outcome from this matchup. We leave with a Icicle Spear loaded. Back in comes the Chesnaught. I'm going to swap immediately into my Talonflame, and they have a Steelix. Now it's going to be a close battle because these Psychic Fangs plus Dragon Tails are going to add up. If they go for Crunch, it's the higher hitting move. It's the more damage hitting move. But they don't get the debuff. So that is actually a lot better for us. So we're going to throw off this next Flame Charge, take out the Steelix, and they're actually going to rely on their Chesnaught to win them this game. And this Chesnaught is not going to appreciate these boosted Flame Charges. So they're forced to throw right away. And now at this point, I could either let my Talonflame go and rely on my Walrein to close out the game, which would be able to outpace, or I could shield, swap into, or I could shield, throw off my Flame Charge, get their last shield, and then be able to farm down before they reach another move. So GG's. Next battle, Walrein into Swampert. This is exactly where we want to see it. Good lead for us. And since Earthquake still does a hefty amount of damage to the Walrein, I will shield the first move, expecting them to go for the Earthquake right away. I actually let this one go because this is a non-Shadow Swampert. A Shadow Swampert, I would shield the first one just because of how much damage it can do. In a non-Shadow, we are still able to survive that fairly easily. My opponent has to go for another Earthquake right here if they want to take us out. And if it's a Hydro Cannon, we survive, so we let it go. It is the Hydro Cannon. We get off our next Icicle Spear, and we are able to farm down that Swampert and leave with an Icicle Spear of our own. In comes a Gyarados. We're going to be able to get off a little bit of chip against it. Then we're going to go down and bring in our Charizard, because our Charizard is our best answer that's left against the Gyarados. They are going to be throwing off an Aqua Tail right here, and an Aqua Tail would hurt. So we are going to give up our first shield, overfarm a little bit more, throw off this Dragon Claw. Does end up getting their first shield, and since we are at the back-to-back, we throw it right away, but my opponent makes a very, very nice catch onto their own Charizard. So now this is going to be a close game for us, because we are going to have to maximize our energy while also getting rid of this Charizard. So I'm going to throw off this Blast Burn here, bring in my Talonflame, and commit to the Incinerate down. I'm hoping this one doesn't KO the Charizard so I can get an extra Incinerate worth of energy, but it does. So now we have to hope that we outpace this Gyarados to 2 Flame Charges. We are 2 Incinerates off. They just threw an Aqua Tail, so this is very, very close. First Incinerate, second Incinerate. They get there just in time before us. And our Talonflame will get taken out by this Aqua Tail. Very, very well played by my opponent. GG's to them. Next battle, we lead Walrein into Aurorus. Aurorus is a little bit of a tough lead for us, as it can have core breaking potential, but non-Shadow Walrein can tank a Meteor Beam, which we see right here. So I'm going to let that go through. I'm going to go for the Earthquake, hoping my opponent no shields because I no shielded, which they do. And now this is great because even though their attack is buffed, Weather Ball, double resisted, Walrein survives that and gets to another Icicle Spear. This is absolutely massive because it brings Aurorus low. We swap into our Talonflame, we snipe it, and my opponent concedes the match. Turns out the Aurorus was their best answer to the Fire Flying type, so that worked out very, very well for us. Next battle, Walrein into Dragonite. The Dream Lead, we can see what my opponent wants to do, and they swap into a Bouffalant. I mean, I know this thing has like Stomp, but what's its other move? Probably like Earthquake. Surely it doesn't have Stone Edge or Rock Slide, right? So because of that, I'm gonna let this go. I'm at a complete loss of what to do right now, and it's Skull Bash, and that does a lot of damage to my Charizard. But luckily, we do get to this Dragon Claw on the CMP tie, which forces their first shield, and because of that, I'm gonna shield back. Because even though their defense is buffed, we are in no danger of being farmed down, and we are able to farm them down in time despite that. So we leave with a Dragon Claw against this Dragonite, which will get some good chip damage against it. Now we can bring in our Walrein right away. They have Scrafty in the back. We have our Talonflame. And we are going to load up on energy. We're going to let this first move go. We do not want to shield a power-up punch. It is the foul play. So now I'm going to throw one more Incinerate and the Brave Bird for good timing. And my opponent lets this go, which is the right call by them because their win condition in this situation is to call that Flame Charge. But unfortunately for them, we played our win condition, which is going for the double Brave Bird if they were to shield the first one. So now we can close out this game fairly comfortably. GG's. Very cool pick in the Buffalon. Next battle, we lead Walrein into Cradily. Fairly neutral matchup, but a little more positive for us since we are able to outpace the Cradily to these moves, and they safe swap into a Charizard. I don't have the best answer for a Charizard safe swap, so I'm going to stay in, throw off an Icicle Spear's worth of chip, and then dip into my own Charizard. The reason why is because I need to guarantee that I can maintain switch advantage in this matchup because I don't want my Talonflame on the Cradily. This right here, my opponent throws a move as to what can only be a Dragon Claw, so we are going to let it go. And we get to the back-to-back Dragon Claws. So if my opponent does want to take switch advantage, they'll have to give up both of their shields. And therefore be at a 2-0 shield deficit, which I would be perfectly okay with. But they don't. They bring in their Cradily. They are able to get a Bullet Seed down, but we do land a Blast Burn, and that does a ton of damage. So I will shield to be able to preserve health, as Stone Edge will do a lot. My opponent swaps into a Talonflame. So they're running the same backline as I am with the Charizard and Talonflame, as well as a Pokemon weak to counter in the front in their Cradily. So very similar team idea. And I'm staying in this matchup with my Walrein just because Walrein is my win condition, and I need to get as much damage off on this Talonflame as I can. Plus, if I was to swap in my Talonflame against theirs a shield down, it's basically a death sentence for the Talonflame. So I'm going to throw two more Powder Snows, catch their Incinerate on my Talonflame, and now I will be able to outpace. I go for the Flame Charge here, not the Brave Bird, because I don't want their Cradily, to be able to overfarm against my Talonflame and then potentially get to an extra move against my Walrein. By going for the Flame Charge, it allows my Walrein to get extra farm if they stay in to outpace, or if they swap out, I will still outpace this Cradily. Plus, I'm not in any danger to the Talonflame taking me out in the end game because it will go down to 2 Powder Snows. My only possible lose condition there was their Cradily being able to overfarm a lot against my Talonflame. But we take that one. GG's to my opponent. Anyways, that is the end of the video. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate you. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like, subscribe, and comment down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.